I'm very grateful to Kun Kasim Sid for standing in for Kun Kalin Sarasin, whom I actually invited. And Kun Kalin is busy, and so Kun Kasim Sid, being a team member, said, Glenn, I'll come in, and so here we are. This afternoon, let me just say this, that we are represented by several countries over here, Kun Kasim Sid. Okay. We have definitely China. Where's China? Okay. We have Myanmar. Is Myanmar anywhere here? Right? Okay. We've got Thailand. Where's Thailand? Yeah. India. Yeah. Nepal. Okay. And from Europe as well. From Belgium and from France. No. Which country? From Netherlands. Okay. Did I leave any country out? I'm sorry. Anyone from the Middle East? Anyone from the Middle East countries? From Europe? Any other parts of Europe?
From Bangladesh.
From, oh, sorry, I missed out on that. Please forgive me. Bangladesh. Okay, and then which other countries do we have? They disappeared. I think they are gone off. We have a bunch of questions. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to take much else. I apologize that I won't be with you, but I've left you in much better hands. Professor Aaron Lowe, okay, and Professor John Barnes, and Professor Sophia, they are going to be taking you guys forward. Professor Aaron, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming, and I'd like to have another strong welcome to Kun Kasim Sid, Cash, and you can, it's friendly enough, and I hope you can stay on, and you guys can have a personal interaction with him. We have a question to ask you. Normally we have this session once a week, or once a month. That's why we call it Speaker of the Month. And sometimes it's actually they are elected to sign up for the class. So this is part of their requirement to graduate. One of the six. Yeah. There are times they have half through because they chose what they want to attend. But I think you guys came to the right meeting. Firstly, I'd like to say he got a long list of his achievement for me. But I just want to emphasize his importance. If you have the Prime Minister come down, you have the Cabinet, then he's the advisor to the Cabinet Minister of the Minister of Commerce in Thailand. So I think that emphasizes his importance of his knowledge, and he has been doing it for a while. He has graduated from, Cass has been graduated from the United States in back in 2005 was the latest record I have here, but since 1992, he was working with Northeastern University in Massachusetts, and then he went on to Bentley University, and finally in 2005 he was at the Harvard Business School in Massachusetts. So his sterling background from the American also contributed much to his experience and his back here advising the Minister of Commerce. But on top of that, he has his own company, which is now called Merchant Partner Securities. Merchant Partner Securities is now he's the president and CEO of that company since July 2005. It's a long while ago. 2007, I remember, because that's the year I retired from business. I came out here. That was 10 years ago. So 2005, 12 years ago, we had the president and CEO of the company for 12 years. And on top of that, he is also director, independent director of a whole string of companies. I'm not sure I could have the opportunity to read up the whole string. Independent directors are, you may want to search yourself this question, do you know it well enough? Otherwise, you can ask him. As of recent years, we are very concerned about the governance of company, especially public company, and we have decided, every country, not only Thailand, that companies should be having very independent directors that can provide transparent governance to company, and this is in the whole string of it. Among which, downstairs you see US, UOB, my country, as you know. UOB KN is one of the company that Cash is also a director of on the board, and he's on the board of Benny's and a part of the Thai Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is a whole big organization, the Board of Trade, and he's on that board too, in addition to many others that he has. And after that, he may tell you some of these things. Let me just try and pick up some. In 2012, in the present, Christiani and Nielsen Public Company. He's the chairman of the Audit and Corporate Governance Committee and the director since until today. And July 2010, for the last 7 years, UOB Kay Hian, I just mentioned, Thailand, the public listed company. And he's also on the board of the National Power Supply Public Company, big business, 20616 until recently, he's still on it. Asia Aviation Public Company Limited is also the director recently. The owner of Thai Air Asia, thank you. So he's on many of the boards, and then let me just go down the list. Chamber of Commerce, I mentioned, he's the chairman of the executive board. Chairman of the executive board in 2014, and I mentioned already he's the government position. He's the advisor to the Ministry of Commerce, the Royal Thai government, to the Minister of Commerce. And 2014 to present, he's also on the NLA, National Legislative Assembly, that is equivalent to the government. NLA in Thailand is the National Legislative Assembly. Actually, it's the government of Thailand, members of parliament. So he's one of those member of parliament.
Well, we are under a different regime now, so it's not a parliament.
Okay, so in 1999 to 2002, he started earlier with the Ministry of Commerce because his background is in commerce. He's really been advising the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Commerce earlier, and now he's focusing on the advice of the Minister of Commerce. Well, the whole string. Okay, so the topic today is really on Highlight 4.0. And you may have lots of questions in your mind. I do myself. So I sincerely hope you will maximize this opportunity to learn and maybe to question whatever you may have that you need to clear up in your mind. This is one opportunity. We have a very hands-on person who come and address these issues of development in commerce, especially in trade. Every country required today. So please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to the speaker.
Thank you, Professor Loh. Thank you, Professor Glenn is gone. Good afternoon, distinguished professors and class of APAC. Oh, I still call it APAC. It's something university.
The floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the very warm welcome. And as the Professor Loh has mentioned, I'm actually standing in for the chairman of the Board of Trade, Thai Chambers of Commerce, South Asia. Good year. He's just been recently appointed the chairman last month. So he has a whole list of things that he has to take care of. And been given this task when Professor Glenn asked me to come along, I said yes, of course, I'd love to come back here. I was just chatting with the professors earlier that I was briefly here for like 3 months before I went to the States for my undergrad studies. So this building was brand new at that time, back in 87 or 88. Okay. And I remember the elevator was extra slow here, and we used to take stairs between 5, 6 floors, and I don't know they've done some work on that. Other than that, the whole area has changed. I haven't come back to this part of the town so much, but it used to be just empty field. Standing on top of this building, looking around, was just flat green field all around the area. It's like out of town, in the middle of nowhere, and now it's pretty much surrounded by, it's engulfed into the city. So it's good to be back, and thank you for having me. I hope
Welcome back.
I will spend a bit of time as the professor has very kindly introduced me. I have many hats. So my day job is I run a fund. I run a securities company, and I run an asset management company, which is a fund management company. So I run an equity fund and many other strategies. So we have to keep up with the market. We follow the market very closely. And along with the market, the ups and downs of the market, you have to understand politics, which is a big part of why the market moves whichever way. So from my also past experience, we get involved and we get engaged with the policy making of the country, at different ministries, particularly the economic ministries. So from there, the best driving spot to be helping the government is through the main private body of the country, which is the Board of Trade and the Thai Chambers. It is a bit confusing between the two names, but basically the Board of Trade has a different legal standing. Pretty much management of the two entities is the same. The Thai Chamber of Commerce in Thai is Hogan Kha Thai. The Thai Chamber of Commerce is the older entity. It's been around for over 80 something years. And the Thai Chambers it's just like one other chamber. So it's Thai Chambers, Thai Japanese, Thai American, Thai German. Under all these chambers, we are members of the Board of Trade. So the Board of Trade is like an overarching holding company that all other chambers are under, and there is a regulation under it. So people are usually quite confused about the two bodies, but we call it, it's synonymous for us, the Thai Chambers and the Board of Trade, so we call them as a single entity. The composition is a bit different, a little bit, okay. Anyway, so I think you'll be hearing a lot about Thailand 4.0 recently, and particularly the area that the Thai Chambers and the Board of Trade we focus on is the area on trade and services 4.0. I think that's what I've been asked to talk about. This is our vision. I think I've covered this a little bit. We're a non-profit organization. We represent the private sector. So if you imagine a big room of the government bodies, you would have the labor unions, you have your ministry, you have your strategy, you have your finance, and then you have 2 seats for the private sector. Usually would be the Thai Chambers will have a seat there, and the Federation of Thai Industries. Those are the sort of the 2 main private bodies in Thailand as an organization. The other one, which is more sectorial, which is the Thai Bankers Association. So the 3 of us form the main private bodies of private sector of Thailand. So we're non-profit. We try to promote trade, industries, agricultural, finance, and services. We want to be, that's our vision, especially this is sort of a revised vision of the new chairmanship. We want to be the country's premier, the key business organization, and with extensive knowledge, networks, and collaborative capacity in Thailand, aims to build Thailand's potential for international trade and investment in a sustainable manner. So those are the few keywords there. So we get called, we receive a lot of guests every day, literally, from every country. Whether it's a new investors or another group of companies or whoever wants to come to have interest in Thailand, they would call on us. So the Thai Chambers and the Board of Trade will be sort of the main body to listen to, apart from going to the government and listen to the other government agencies. So that's us. That's what we do. We have a lot of roles, but between us and the Federation of Thai Industries, we focus on agriculture and service. Yeah, that's our core value. We would focus on trade and investment, food and agriculture, tourism and services. Those seem to be the 3 main core strengths of Thailand, essentially. That's what Thailand is really good at. So we have stakeholders that we work with on a regular basis, from trade associations, the provincial chambers, for example, Chiang Mai Chamber of Commerce or Chonburi Chamber of Commerce, they work with us. We don't actually own them. So they are their own independent body, but they govern and they run the agenda and the policy along with us. So we are like affiliated, but we don't control them. So we work very closely with them. Foreign chambers, like I mentioned before, in different countries. We have specialist chambers, we have trade associations, and academic here. Government sectors like the BOI, the Department of the Science, the NECTEC. Those are all the different agencies that we have to collaborate.
It's quite interesting to highlight that the labor force in the case of GDP, the small contribution towards the country, mostly the industry. I'm sorry, Apache, can I go back one slide? So the gross domestic product is really contributed by industry and not the agriculture. Many of our students, when I ask them, hey, which one you think countries, Thailand, they always think it's agriculture. But basically the GDP is mostly contributed by industry, factories, machines, and then of course they don't have that many people. But most of the labor are in the paddy field, in the prawn farms and stuff, and then of course the rest of the services, tourism, the retails and all. So interesting because
even though the majority of the population is in the agriculture sector, the output value is less compared to the industry sector. You produce tons of rice versus 10 cars or 100 cars. The value is vastly different. So that would create a social problem. That's something we have to manage as an ongoing process. Right. So we will see how we have come about. So what is Thailand 4.0? This is sort of the theme lines of the government, and this is what the government has been. Well, if you think back a bit, we haven't been doing much in the last 10 years, 12 years for Thailand. We've been entangled in a lot of conflict and unrest and whatnot, and we didn't have time to go and sit down and do a proper strategic plan for the country. And this is what we have now, finally, the latest version. The Thailand 1.0, if you think back, Thailand has only been around, well, not been around, we've been a very old country, but for a long time, we've only been engaged in agricultural activities. For a long time, we haven't done much. So if you go back 50 years, the oldest bank in Thailand, like Siam Commercial Bank, is just pushing. Yeah, that was before. The other banks are all around 70 years old. So you can imagine the economy just came on around that time. So Thailand 1.0 is pretty much all agriculture based. You produce rice, fruit, tree, rubber, whatever we can produce on the farm. We sell it as it is. So we are very low in production. That was Thailand 1.0. And people start to discover us as a low cost country, very good weather, very fertile land. We produce a lot of produce and farm stuff. So that's how we got discovered. Then we moved to Thailand 2.0. We start with light industries. We start to produce things that we need, as the basic needs. Shakers, start to produce clothes, textile, machineries, light machineries. You do textile, you sew clothes, you start selling clothes. So we move up the chain. Coming to 3.0, we start having heavy industries. We start with the Eastern Seaboard at that time. Rayong Industries started around that time, 30 years ago. We have petrochemical plants, which is a big deal at that time. It was, people were still protesting as what people are doing right now. Why are we building this new EEC that we're talking about? That was the same thing, the same debate that we had 30 years ago. Why are we building a petrochemical plant? Why are we bringing all these crackers? It doesn't relate to us, but somebody needs to take the foot down and decide on a plan and act on it. And that's what we did, and it has yielded us tremendous value in the last 30 years. So that's 3.0. You have car industries coming in, you have tire industries. When you build and decided on a sector like automotive, everything else has to come along, all the peripheral industries. So you have a car sector, you have rubber industries, for tires, you have the plastic industries, you have the machineries, and you build the school around it, you build the training grounds on it. Other companies that comes with the car industries, the entire value chain will come. So that has been proven within our 3.0 model. And now we're moving to 4.0. 4.0 is pretty much a higher value added services and production. So we are not going to be competing on just low-cost labor as an OEM producer of electronics or cars. Or we're trying to move up the value chain. We want to produce something of more value. So 4.0 is time to change. As you can see, we want to bring up the competitiveness of the country. We want to raise 4 main sectors that we are focusing on, which is the agriculture sector. We don't just want to produce rubber sheets and sell rubber sheets. We want to put value on it. We want to produce tire. We want to produce tire for the plane. For example, we want to move up the value chain to produce more higher value products on what we have as a raw material. We want to go to SME. We have plenty of SMEs. Everywhere you go and you will see SMEs. But they're all doing the same thing. They're not getting equipped to train, to retrain, to retool, to give them access to what they need to move up. And everyone is doing the same thing. Coffee shop, selling clothes or whatever. You can see all this SME all over the place, and they are doing exactly the same thing. So how do we equip them and move them up the curve? Services sector, everything is services, as you will see in the next slide. We want to increase the labor and skills and knowledge. That is really the key. That is why we have more institutions. We want more smart employees. We want more people to come out thinking better, not just doing a job, but thinking of a business, being a part of the value chain. So, and we have a lot of other industries that we have very, very clear competitive advantages, and we're not taking advantage of them, which is like healthcare and medical technology. Why do you build whatever device as an OEM? when you can produce higher value equipment. Yeah, so same thing, food agriculture, you can build juice, you can build vitamin C supplements. It's different value, as you can see. You can go, and we have to adopt the digital technology and the internet industry. Everything is all connected, as you can see. So we have to get onto that curve and produce something more high tech. And also, creativity is also one of Thailand's very strong point. We are very creative. You can see our ads, you can see our design, you can see our fashion, but we are not making it as the real industries. We haven't really developed in Bangkok. So this is the new engine for growth. You may hear a lot of S-curve. Government talking about new S-curve. Everyone needs to find S-curve. S-curve is basically a curve that looks like an S. So basically, new industries will grow and then it will plateau. So you need another boost for them to grow even higher. Maybe a new design, a new technology come along, a new production way, a new something. So you bring up the value to the higher curve, and it will plateau up there. And you need to do it again. So you need this new S-curve all the time. S-curve. So for us, the new engine for growth will be food. Food is. Thailand is, again, synonymous with food. We have very good agriculture and we turn them into food. So CP has announced that they want to be the kitchen of the world. They want to produce food for every sector. They have halal food, they have vegans, they have everything. They have food for pets, they have everything food. So they are big. So food is one of the relative. Automotive, right, like I mentioned. Automotive is going through its own changes. The industry is now going into electric vehicles. So the existing plant that we have in all of the Eastern Seaboard in Rayong, every car companies are here. It's amazing. Every car company, all the biggest European names, the biggest Japanese name, all here. And because they're here, every other side industries are all here. And they are going to need upgrades because of the new technology that are coming, the electric vehicles. So all the production facilities will have to adopt and change. So this will be a good time for us to give them incentive, bring them, make sure they stay here, make sure they expand, they upgrade the industries. So that's the next S-curve. Smart electronics, as you can see, we are a producer of a lot of electronic equipment. People might not know that. For example, we are one of the biggest producers of hard drives in the old days. During the flood in 2010, 2010, actually, because of the flood, the big flood in Bangkok and the surrounding area, the supply chain of the world, hard drives were halted because of us. We couldn't supply the hard drives to fit their computers. Not just computers, but everything had hard drives now. Your phone has a smart drive, your thumb drive, everything was halted. We are the biggest supply chain. But think about it, hard drives, we are number one in the world, and we were proud of that for a while. People don't use hard drive anymore. Everything is in the cloud. Everything is crowd-based. So that is the new model that we need to move to. What do we do with that? So smart electronics, everything is all connecting, the Internet of Things. Your fridge is talking to your car, and your car is talking to your air condition. So everything is connecting. This is the sensors, this is the new electronics that are happening. So we want to be in that industries. Tourism is big in Thailand. We haven't done anything. Tourism used to be like 6 or 7% of GDP for a long time as I started tracking the numbers. And it's now like 16 or 17%. And yet we haven't done much. And the government is just waking up to the fact that this is a real industry. A lot to do. And there are higher end of tourism. You can do medical tourism, you can do wellness tourism. Medical tourism is when people need it. When you do medical, you go to see a doctor when you are sick. But the wellness tourism is when you're well, you go to see the doctor. So there's different industries, and people pay for that kind of services. So those are the industries we want to move up. So the S-curves on the industries will be, aviation and logistics. Aviation it's not far from automotives. So that's what the government wants to do. This is the future. We want to have an aviation hub. Look at Thailand, we're right in the middle of ASEAN. We're almost like, by default, the capital of ASEAN. Everyone flies in. We are already an aviation hub. People come and change flight here, they transit here. Going to Australia and Europe, you have to stop somewhere. Either Singapore or us. So why not us? So we want to be an aviation hub. If we have a repair, the plane, they call it the eye shoulder, we repair, overhaul something, center here. Every plane will have to stop here. We will become the aviation hub. And the other industries will follow. They training pilots. You want to spend over 2 nights. So pilots needs to be trained every year. They need to refresh their hours, their training, new flights, new program, new regulations. You want to stop in, for example, in Dubai or Bangkok. I'm biased, so I would say Bangkok. So that's an aviation hub. We have chemical industries, the biochemical, the petrochemical industries can easily expand into doing all of these new industries. Medical hub, the digital hub, we talked about that. And robotics will be big. Everything is going robotics. So we are trying to upgrade everything that we have at the same time. We're not starting from zero. This is an upgrade. So these are the priorities for innovation. We want innovation. This is the main thing that government keeps talking about: innovation. But most people don't even know what innovation is. How do you start innovation? What do you have to do? What is innovation? Well, we'll start step by step. Everything that is, every industry can do innovation. People just don't realize that. Even you sell coffee, there are innovations. There are process innovations. There are product innovations. Everything that as long as you increase value, you increase the productivity of whatever you're doing, is an innovation. There are many ways to do it. It doesn't have to be like a big breakthrough in new products or services or apps or something. There are a lot of ways to do that. So yeah, we are aiming for smart cities, medical hub, low carbon society, food monopolies. There's a food monopolies out in Kong Luong somewhere. If you've been out there, Ministry of Science has set up food innovation monopolies with integrated food packaging, and storage. There are so many technologies just within the food sector alone. A lot to see, a lot to learn. Water management, we are really very poor at that in the last 2 days of flood and rain. So that's something, we have too much water where we don't need, and we have no water where we need it. So there's some work to be done there. Transformation shift, yeah, traditional farmers to smart farming. Farmers, they cannot just farm the whole thing. Sadly, this year rubber prices is good. Everyone, the whole 4 provinces are doing rubber. Why? They need some kind of intelligence. The government needs to go down, the private sector needs to go down and help them. What's wrong? Rubber takes 7 years to plant before you start getting your first latex. But you can't, there need to be some sort of allocation of resources. Some areas are good for rice, some areas are good for palm, some areas are good for rubber. How do all those intelligence all get into, synchronized and executed? Yeah. So we're trying to move them to smart farming. There's a drought year, we can forecast a drought year, and yet everybody is trying to do 2 to 3 crops of rice, which is going to exacerbate the drought season. So these are the traditional SMEs. We have SMEs. SME, the entrepreneur, startups is a sort of a spirit in all Asian nations. Everybody wants to be their own boss now. Nobody wants to graduate and go work for someone else anymore. It's like a new spirit, a new religion almost. So how do we change from traditional SME into startups? We have traditional services. How do you move them up into the higher value chain? Unskilled labor, how do we move them into a knowledgeable workforce? We keep having people with unemployment, but on the other side, we have so many positions that we cannot fill. There are not enough people to do what we need to do, and yet there are people who graduate with no work. There's a big mismatch here. How do we bridge this? Something is wrong. Everybody is getting a university degree, but nobody is getting a technical knowledge. We need people in the field of so many things, IT, programming. If you want to start an app now, you have trouble finding programmers. We don't have enough programmers. Not enough people graduates in programming and science, and yet we have so many university degrees. And even my secretary has an MBA, which is an overdone. We are not matching the needs of the industries, job market. Technologies, we have to buy. In the past, we buy everything. You buy a cement plant, you buy plastic molding machinery. How do we start making these technologies? There are a lot of, we have been using this technology for so many years now. We should know how to do something. We should be able to try and put the knowledge in, unbox that whole machine and learn how they will put together and build one yourself. So we're hoping to promote all of these industries. Yes. So that's the shift. What do we, as a private sector, what do we do? The government is, they always have the government's perspective. Say that they have their own agenda. But I think going forward, it has to be a demand driven. That's where the private sector like us needs to get in and tell the government what we need before they start announcing something that they just think up and expect us to deliver. So we need to have more collaborative effort going forward. We need to tell them what we need. We need to tell them what the world needs, what are the markets, where are things moving. Because the government are not business people, whatever. They don't produce export. We produce exports. They don't produce more trade, we produce more trade. So the business sector should be more involved with the government in forming policy. So we give them, we want them to support whichever sector. We have to tell them. For example, they would have a farmers fund. Is that good or bad? Why? Maybe the fund should be channeled into some other area of support that will be producing more economic value. So those are the things that we're doing. We want them to build. Not just the whatever the road in the middle of nowhere. We want them to connect these roads to where we need them to be. To the ports, to strategic locations, to the bordering countries. We need them to be. We need to tell them how to do this. We need to help them. And they have the budget. They have the government power to do things. But we don't want them to abuse them or do it in the wrong way or misprioritize them. So we need to be. Infrastructure is always a key thing. Because without infrastructure, if they don't know what to do, they should build infrastructure. That's the least they can do. If you building infrastructure, somebody will benefit from them if you build them in the right place, and hopefully they don't overspend on it. And we need to give them how to gauge a KPI, because governments doesn't seem to have KPIs, like a company. We have every year we miss our budget, we miss our sales. We would call up the sales team, the marketing team, and give them problems. Tell them what happened. What are you going to do next? The government nobody seems to be doing that. So we have to be giving them a scorecard and say, you didn't do so well last year. What are you going to do about it? We are suffering from this. So trade 4.0. So we have trade and services. Trade. The driver would be the border. We're trying to come down, bring down all the borders so that we can trade all around the world, not just the neighboring countries. Innovation, we want to bring in more innovation. How do we help people do innovation? Most people, like I mentioned, they don't understand innovation. How do we get them to start moving along this line? To even start with the idea of having innovation in mind. What is innovation? This is we're still going around the country and people still ask, what is innovation? We start somewhere. We start with innovation. We start to build awareness and build them to have this mindset and the want to start to innovate. Emotional, this is interesting. This is something that is different from, we are trying to show people that it's emotional, it is more emotional. You do something from the heart. You don't do something just to do something. That gets things moving in the right direction. People think together, think of the same way. So you will see it in more examples later on. Digital technology. So this is the driver of Trade 4.0, and the enabler would be through standards. You need to build standards. To go international, you need standards. You don't just produce pad thai, for example, and you expect the whole world to eat the same thing. Or you're trying to export more rice to some countries. Some countries don't even eat rice. I don't know why we keep pushing for things like that. So we need to have this intelligence. We need to have standards of what to deliver. We need trade facilitation. Those will be in a global, multilateral kind of mode. You need to be to make sure that people don't block us. Just because we're selling a lot of rice and we're selling a lot of whatever, we have a lot of tourists. We have to make sure that there is a standard. The whole world is on the level playing field, and we facilitate in creating more trades. Oops, way too fast. Okay, so innovation. We talked quite a bit of that. We have to bring in all these new services like big data. We need them to come in and help. Everybody is using it, and I think the government is just realizing that this is a big push, a big help to have them. We're just announcing data centers that are being built. Without data, your intelligence doesn't work. You're just sitting in the dark and thinking of what you feel things would be. Data can't lie, so just take the numbers. We have these are examples of cases where big data will help. You go to the Amazon website, looking at one book, they will suggest you 5 other books that people who buy this book would buy. And this all comes from algorithm. This comes from big data. And you see more and more of this. Ads, the same. You go to look at certain website, they sort of analyze the profile and they will suggest other users for you. Why would you, if you, people who look at this, they also look at that. So these are all coming from big data. Digital technology. Yeah, we're trying to bring technology into more of what we do now. I think in Thailand, we're still very much bogged down by red tape. We still have to sign every piece of paper when we submit or we go to any government agencies. I don't know why. We're trying to do away with our basic immigration forms at airports. Who look at those? We have to fill this stupid complex form, and they just take it and they chuck it aside. But we have to do it. They don't look at it. Nobody uses it. It's a waste of resources. Why? So we're trying to streamline a lot of this government procedures through the border trade. We do a lot of those work. We're trying to go paperless. We're trying to create records. You do things on an electronic scale, there are always records. So, maybe the old government servants or the agencies, they wouldn't like it. They like to do it in a difficult way, so there are ways to benefit incorrectly. So that you can track and trace, you can have all this smart logistics. These are not new. You order a parcel from somewhere in the US, they give you tracking numbers and you always know exactly where your package is. This is not new technology. And like we mentioned about the standards, we produce TIGAP, which is the good agricultural practice. This is a pretty standard sets of rules that we keep promoting to the farmers. If they go through this, they don't use certain chemicals, whatever they do. There's a whole list of checklists that we've been promoting to all Thai farmers to adopt. And we push these standards to the world. So we would not get dumped for no reason. We call it a non-tariff barrier, because tariffs are getting difficult to impose. People don't just give you tax or duties when you export something out. They give you all sorts of other standards that are not standards, like sanitary standards, or these are non-tariff barriers. They say you send in some fruits, they need to be quarantined for 30 days. Fruits are perishable. You can't just sit at the top for 30 days. These are just non-tariff measures that they are blocking. So we need to be aware of that. We need to create standards and be ahead of the game. Emotional, this is what I was trying to tell you. We need to, it's not just promotion or marketing anymore. We need to really get people to engage, like how Coke did with, sharing the Coke. You and me Coke, they have, personalized name on the bottles. They have it here in Thailand for a while. So these are very emotional. So how do you move your products up the chain and get people to feel really attached to your brand or your products or your services? How do you get to that point? It's not just an advertising of the products and services anymore. So you need to get into not just the function, you need to get into the emotional part. So this will be you will see more of this coming in every sectors. Borderless, as you mentioned, we're trying to bring down all the borders, clear the access, clear the barriers to trade in every area. So we start with our own region. We now have a single market in AEC, the ASEAN Economic Community. So we start with that, and then we start to expand. AEC is now negotiating the RCEP, which is the RCEP, with Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, with another 6 major countries. So the ASEAN 10 countries plus 6, which is China, India, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, and Japan. Within the RCEP itself will be almost half the world population. So just within that, we can trade freely among those countries. It's more than enough to start. So a lot to do on the trade side. This is another whole area of specialization on trade and trade issues, trade lawyers, trade negotiations. That's a whole new area in itself. But we have entire department, ministries that are looking after that. So that's the trade. So we have the standard. We did this. So we have the trade specifications. So trades, we have the 4. So trades, we have the 4 enablers and the 4 drivers and the 2 enablers. Well, any questions so far, maybe? Because I seem to be going quite fast. Yeah, that's the trade side. And we go to the services side. Same thing, we have, it's important to know that in the developed market, 80% of the GDP derives from the service industries, not the manufacturing industries, not the agricultural industries. And we are still very low. We're still at about half of the GDP in the service sector. And there are lots of ways to go out from here. So this is why we are interested in building more SME, more startups, and give people the information, the knowledge, to help them equip whatever they do. So services will be certainly the key. You look at Singapore, most of the industries are services. Banking is a service. Financial services is a service. So a lot of the higher value economy is focused on services. So that's what we're going to do. We have same thing, the driver and the enabler. So drivers, of course, digital technology is key. Creativity is very, very key for Thailand. Thailand is a very creative economy. You can see, like I mentioned, in most of the creative work, in music, in fashion, in design. So we should bring all of those out to make them commercialized. And culture. Thailand also have lots and lots of culture to sell, and we just don't realize them because we live them every day. But those is another key driver that we're going to bring out and try and promote. And again, we need to enable with standards and the people. People is everything, right? Without people, this will all not be possible. How do we get the people to understand what we're trying to do, give them the skill, give them the knowledge, give them the tools to try and deliver what we have. Creativity, like I mentioned, Thais are creative, not just in the old industries like fashion or design, but in high-tech industries like webs, like apps, like how people design things, how the look and feel of things. We seem to understand a little better. We're very creative in that. The cultural side of things, the Thai identity, Thainess is something that is sellable. People are selling Thai food, they're not even Thai. Some of the big international players are selling Thai food, they're not even Thai. And why not? Why don't we set the standards and make sure what is Thai and what is not Thai? Thai food is one of the top 3, top 5 very exquisite food in the world. And people don't understand what is Thai food. It's just not curry and pad Thai. But there's certain ingredients that needs to be in there to be qualified as a proper Thai food. So we need to bring out the what, we call it the wat and the wang, right? The temples and the palaces that we have. We have a long tradition of monarchy. We have a lot to sell, the stories in there. You go to Singapore, pardon, I keep picking on you, but Singapore is very good at that. Look at if you've gone to the National Museum in Singapore, they don't have that much of a history, and yet they can bring out a lot of stories from those histories. A lot of them are from the ASEAN countries, and they are, they've been able to tell the story correct. So we need to be able to bring out some of the good things that we have, and we have a lot. We just don't know how to bring it out yet. We don't know how to tell it right. So we need to sell the cultural side of things. Digital technology, and again, same thing. Standards on food, standard of culture. You want to do a Thai dance, a proper Thai dance, how do you do it? Right? You need to do a Thai dress. What is Thai dress? You can't just let somebody run away with our Thai standards. So we need to create the standards for you to deliver the services and products. And of course the people, like I mentioned before. So these are new hires, like the technology side. The whole world is going through this aging society, and Thailand will be entering it. It's so fast before we know it. We are almost there. Once we hit a certain age, and let me try and remember the numbers. I think we're at about 10 or 11%, and the next 7% will come in like within a few years because of all travel. So we certainly will become an aging society very quickly in the next 5 years, and all the services that we need along with aging societies. Japan is already going through that right now. Japan is another interesting case. Japan population is growing at -1 a year. -1 a year. So if you take the whole century, the next 100 years, there will be no more Japanese left. So the -1 a year, 100 years, there will be no more Japanese left. So what are you going to do? And Japan is a different problem than us. They are very rigid. What is Japanese? They're very rigid immigration laws. They don't. Very difficult to become Japanese. So for us, what do we do? I mean, along with all the services, we have robots that can help assist senior citizens. A lot of hotels, I have difficulty trying to find a driver, for example.
kind of maids going forward. These jobs will be impossible to find in the future, and somebody has to think of an alternative for it. And you'll see a lot of these services coming in. There is a new app that I saw recently called the Helpster. I think it's a Helpster, where they have they listed all the handyman for you. So you need someone to fix your plumbing, or change your bulb. You're in a condo and wants to help you. Who are you going to call, right? You just call this website. They'll send in a guy, set a fixed time, fixed price. They'll fix it for you and get out of the way. Which is those are the new services that you see more and more of. Now, Uber is a good example, right? I don't have a driver, yes, but I don't really need a driver because I'm just within that whole, 3 square kilometers in the city. I'm just going meetings at this hotel, at these offices. So if I have a full service that I can use, I don't really need a driver. I don't even need a car. Think about it. The car is usually, that's why the uses of car is going to change dramatically in the futures. We don't use a lot of, we have a car, we use only like 20% of the time. In the morning you drive to work, park it there, and in the evening you drive it back. So most of the time the car is parked. Throughout the life of the car, you calculate that, you literally use 20% of the car's time. So why have a car? So this will be a new concept. Like my son doesn't want to learn to drive anymore, he doesn't care. He just calls Uber, he call my driver. The concept of having this, to own something is changing very, very rapidly. And we all have to adapt to that. Fintech, payment, don't carry cash anymore. And we want to move towards the cashless society because of traceability, safety, all the other gray economy will slowly disappear with a cashless payment system. So storytelling is what we talk about, the culture side, the diversity of Thailand, the creativity side. So how do we tell the story? How do we bring out the history, tell the story, bring the local identity forward? Show them that this is Thai, this is Thai style, not Bali style, not not other Asian style, or let other Asian style take away our identity. People are selling Thai restaurant without being Thai. Selling dim sum as a Thai restaurant. You go to European countries, you see them all the time. You see this Chinese and Thai, Vietnamese, everyone. It's the exact same menu. Just call it differently and charge different price, which is not right. So a lot is happening on the services side. So pretty much this is the summary, the trade and services. On the trade, we have 4 drivers: innovation, technology, emotional, borderless. And we deal with the standards and the facilitation on the human side. On the services, the same. We have the creativity side, the culture economy that we're trying to bring it out. We're still very early days on the culture economy and digital technology. And we have in the EBLA, it's the same thing, the standards and the human, the people behind all of this. So these are the core, sort of core creative industries of Thailand, trade and services for us. Creative economy, digital economy, culture economy. Those are the 3 key things that, as you will hear more of this from the government in different forms, because there's just there's so many news and directions coming out from the government, the ministries, different bodies. So sometimes it gets really disoriented. But essentially, we are trying to push for this new Thailand 4.0, trade and services 4.0. This is the new Thailand. Hopefully, when this all built out in the next 10, 20 years, we will be a completely different society. It will be a middle, not just a regular middle class society, which we should have been. If we think back before Tom Yam Goong crisis, 97, 98, 92, 93, we were put up there as the they call it NIC countries, which is newly industrialized countries. We were competing with Korea, Malaysia, Singapore. Now, post the crisis, 20 years down, we are now being put in the basket of CRUV. We're competing with Vietnam and Cambodia, which is it's a different ball game. We keep drifting. There's something that has to be done. And the people is very important. We're still watching the same soap. The general Thai public, which is not very productive. They're not teaching us things. We're not learning better English. Funny enough, the Thais are not speaking better English throughout all these years. So there's something missing in the whole social structure that are not improving the knowledge and the skill of the people. So all of that has to be upgraded. Hopefully, once we roll this all out. That's my last slide. Yes. Sorry to go a little fast. I have lots of slides and too many ideas to tell. But that's it. Any question, please?
I'm sure you do. Thank you very much. Because you see, the way I was following the presentation, that's the government who does everything, right? And then there are private bodies, all kinds of companies. So today, he represents, and I think the way one of the Chamber of Commerce, all these companies have to have some representative. And that representative is where Cash is actually sitting on. And they get all the information from the people that representing the company, and now the government will listen to them because the government needs to listen to the people. What do they want? And so this is 4.0, and now I think that is what, is that originated from the Thai Chamber, the 4.0 or something?
Together, yeah.
So this is something, the government will have to listen to somebody. Right? It's difficult to listen to so many voices, but they will listen to the one of the three bodies. I got the banking one and the SME ones, the private sectors, the ordinary people. Right? What's the third one? The banking?
Thai Federation of Thai Industry.
Okay, and the Federation of Industries, another body which are just the private companies. So all these people will gather information and then they'll bring the information to the government, and the government will then implement it because the government will set, there are 660 people in the parliament, and they have to do something for the country. And how do they start enacting regulations and laws to do something? They have to listen to what the country needs, and this is the body that represents them. They bring back all the information and pass it on to the government. So if you have questions, please ask, because this is where, I mean, I know the Chinese are here, the Indians are here, the Myanmar people are here. You can think of how you can get involved in this Thai Chamber of Commerce, because they are the one that tells the government this is what we need, and you can dovetail into it. You can find yourself some angle, and if you finish your study, you stay on, or you can bring your effort from your countries to work in China. This is one opportunity. So please ask questions. I'm now going to open it to the floor, and please have your own questions. Yes, please.
So you were talking about standards a lot, and I was just thinking, like, which body is responsible for actually putting the idea of standards into action?
Well, it depends on what standards we're talking about. We work with different agencies. For agriculture, we work with the Ministry of Agriculture. We work with academics. We work with the Sanitation Center. There is the Food and Drug Administration. There are many agencies. We try and formulate them, not in isolation, with people who need to use them. Yeah, and it's applicable, and we face them. So we don't suddenly one day decided to have this standard by, when he's 18. A lot of processes, a lot of existing providers out there are not really cope, so we need to face it in. Or we need to announce those standards to the world, to our trading partners, to let them know that we're moving towards this. There's fishing standards, we are being penalized by the IUU for something that they don't like how we fish, the labor that we use for fishing. These are all pretty standard game. We understand how things work, but we want to be ahead of the game. We want to be the receiver end of the game.
It's a very good, relevant question. The standards need to be established because there are many things. What is the Thai dress? What is the Thai culture? So you need to bring in, this is the Thai standard. So I think the question, which I also like, because I now relate back to my own country, they have CISA for a long time, Singapore Institute of Standards. And of course, the British Standard Institution, BSI, they have British standard. And then of course, ultimately when it became global, then we have the world standard, the global standard. Who represent the global standards? Yeah, so they are national standards. They are more developed countries such as the British standard, BSI for a long time. Now the British no longer that influential, so the British standard is not so powerful. So I think there will be Thai standards. I think there's one way you can get involved, because right now I agree there are not many established standards. What do you call this? Because standards are important. And if they want to reflect, and there are opportunities for business to get into standards, because if you are pushing for the standards and you're good at that standard, and the standard get adopted, people will be using your product.
And audit them. Somebody certify them and audit them.
Yeah, yes.
All your business in itself.
But although I'm talking about Thailand 4.0, I try not to think of Thailand in isolation anymore. We're trying to talk about the AEC, the entire region. together we stand, we become stronger. So it's not just Thailand, but unfortunately fortunately or unfortunately, we become sort of the bigger brother of the region, especially the North CLAV countries and the North ASEAN members. So they follow us. So we need to move ourselves. We need to raise the bar and build the standards so that people can follow us in the right way. We don't try and go down and cut corners and make things, just to compete with them. We want them to work with us as the entire supply value chain. So that's something that we are also moving towards. Yes, sir.
So you say like you don't want to be in the Thailand as 4.0, you don't want to be in an isolation country, so you want to integrate everyone, right? But as an immigration problem in Thailand also, like, people from other countries they come here to study at international institutions and everything. But do you think that Thailand 4.0 has been enabled, like it's become so hard for from the immigration office for the international people to apply for jobs or anything? Because even if you require to apply for the job, they require like high nationalities. They focus on high nationalities. So how can you enable that as an international people forward?
Yeah, very good question. That's one of the main agenda that we are pushing. And funny enough, on immigration, there are so many agencies involved. There is not one single agency that we can just go talk to. We are now orchestrating this entire task force. Immigration is done at the police department. Labor law is done at the labor department. And then you have different restrictions for different permits. And funny enough, the entire work permit for Thailand, there's only one category, which is really bizarre. So you would have the CEO of Citibank in the same line as the Burmese maids. They are happening that way right now because there are only one category. So we are pushing for different categories, and we do need a lot of different talents to come in. We are pushing all of this. These are work in progress as we are having weekly almost meetings with the different agencies. But we want expats, we want talent that we want to give them, literally invite them in. This is something that we're missing in big time. We want to get to all of this new economy, apps, technology, but we don't have enough people. We don't have qualified people to deliver the services. We need the experts to come in and train us. So we're now opening up, we're fighting for more categories of work permits, as well as immigration. We are telling people to come in and stay with us for longer, for retirement, for medical tourism, but they can't stay because of the visa problem. So all of this are being worked on. I don't know how far we will achieve, but we are pushing for it because this is exactly what we're talking about. And you hit the nail on the head.
I can see that issue the students raised. This is the subject. All of them, they come from foreign international countries. They come and study with us. And they would like to stay on to work. They have a qualification they have learned. And the first hindrance they face is really the ability to use the Thai language. Otherwise, the jobs are available. If they only know how to speak and communicate in Thai, they'll get. And that is understandable because you need to communicate with lots of people in your work environment. Of course, you can become very upset. You can say, wow, now on one hand, we are talking about you want foreign human resource and now I'm available. But I think that as they are working out, I think it's also the students' responsibility. Within your time of your 2 years, I think I'm familiar, you can at least learn how to read and write. You should actually, I think our school has reorganizing it and you will be able to be given Thai classes for reading and writing. So make yourself available for these because when we ran it, we didn't get a lot of response for Thai communication level or writing level. So I think it's also partly the international students' responsibility. If you really wanted an opportunity in this business, you can upgrade yourself to a higher level with the local dialect. And I think one course is coming up. Please, Professor Chilipa is the lady, and Dr. Tongdi is the one who's doing Thai classes, writing and reading. So please enroll in those. I mean, she says that when you finish your diploma, your MBA, you can also get the reading and writing qualification for in Thai, and you better get a job. So pay attention to those, please. Yes.
Not easy, Dr. Start early.
Yes. Could you give me a brief understanding of how the government and the Thai Chamber of Commerce help sustain digital driven startup community other than private platforms? Like there's a lot of accelerator programs, but other than that, how does the government help in or the Thai Chamber of Commerce help in sustaining the startup community? Because the failure rate is usually high. So,
Yes, it's true. The government wants to do this. I don't think they know how to do it yet. But they have the funding. So we need to create platforms for them to fund. And I still think that this sort of thing are better done by the private sector. You don't want the government entity to be building an accelerator for you. It's just not going to work. They're going to give you a whole pile of regulations and lists to comply. It doesn't work. We've been working with them on different fronts. They have, at least you know that they have the will. They want to do this. And they are doing it in different ways. They are going through the Ministry of Digital Economy, the Ministry of Science, and they all have sub-offices and they all have different funds. How do we coordinate those funds so that it can channel into the real production area? So we're working with that too. At least we know they have the will. They want to do this. They keep saying it. This is almost one of their KPIs, and we're helping them to deliver that. We're still looking for the best format to do this. You don't want them. They want to set up a VC fund, but it's impossible. Just thinking at the beginning, it's just impossible for a government entity to set up a VC fund because by nature, VC will fail. Startups will fail, and government cannot fail. They cannot invest in something that will fail. So that system, that platform, that relationship doesn't work. So they need to be able to fund it into an entity where they can better look after the new startups. So yeah, that is being debated now.
See, on that point, I want to make a point with my own experience in Singapore, for example. It's the same question. What help do you give to our startups? In another way, the same question can be asked that way. I think if you were to go and start up a business, please be prepared that you will need to fail and then stand up again and do it yourself and stand up again. I think Singapore suffered from one episode because everybody asked the government to help and the government tried to help. Ended up, they became very reliant to the government and government got tired. They said, no, go get yourself fail and then can work on your own. So if you want to be an entrepreneur and start up, I think you need to also learn the process of failing. The perseverance, wanting to succeed. I think one of the ingredients for a successful entrepreneur starting from zero is somebody who keep on failing and coming back and is very determined to succeed. It's the spirit inside. And then I remember the government was asking that you guys have to learn how to do yourself, and of course those entrepreneurs were angry with the government. You've got to help us. And the government said, look, if we keep on helping you, you won't be an entrepreneur. Right? It will be just a government arm. Right? And you will not be strong. You need to fail.
Usually the first question when you go to a VC in the US, if you go and ask for them to invest, they ask how many have you failed? If you haven't failed 3 times, they don't talk to you.
Yes, Sumit.
Okay, so you mentioned Uber in your talk about you using Uber for transportation. And since Uber has come to Thailand, and even Grab Taxi, and any new transportation startup, or any new startup coming from around the world, they keep on facing resistance from people who refuse to change. Take it the taxi drivers or the motorcycle drivers. Then what are you doing going into a 4.0 economy to help all those startups coming in at least be able to work in a country like this?
Well, it's not new to just Thailand. Every market they go into, they're facing resistance. I think it's a learning process. It's part of both the Uber, the provider, as well as the local economy. But one thing is for sure is this is a market-oriented approach. If there is the demand for it, there's no way you can shun them away. There's no way you can shun them. They will find a way to work together. The government, you cannot expect the government to just put something on the table and say, do this. We're a democratic country, so that's not going to happen. But the market will dictate the forces. As more and more people use it, more people, they cannot. If the taxi drivers are not providing the proper services, of course there will be an alternative. You cannot just live on licenses. Things will evolve, but this is part of business. It's not an authoritarian area. You can just bang a table and say from now on the world is okay. Everybody can use it. It doesn't work that way. And those will come up.
I think I saw where Sumit came from because he says he did not work in his country before because people just didn't buy it. I think, just to give you a simple example, Kuala Lumpur was just the reverse in Malaysia. The government said, no, you can't stop, let them drive, let them be Uber driver, you can go and pick it up anywhere. Oh, a lot of protests. the taxi were protesting, who are these people? And likewise in Thailand too, but China is very successful with Uber. Maybe go and look at the Chinese experience because everybody goes on Uber in Thailand now. I mean, I think they call it Didi or something. I mean, they are very successful. So there are lots of things that business graduates can study. Well, how did the model work in China? Why? Maybe they have invested a lot of money in China. The experience in Nepal, I was told that they try and nobody's interested in Uber. So interesting case, how can you can just call up a number and then the car comes to your house to pick you up? They're not interested in Nepal. So they were shocked and they said, well, how come? But in Thailand, I think you got to think about it. Thailand's infrastructure is not very developed. So I was quite excited to see that the Uber went into the Uber, the motorcycle taxi. They have Uber service, I think, right? I mean, they have Grab, motorcycle. And any other comment, any other thought along the same line? Maybe the Chinese can tell us why Didi is so successful in China. Yeah.
I would say the Uber service, I think about the sharing economy. Because if you build a trade and service further in Thailand, it will have the more and more supply from the upstream and demand from downstream. And I'm sure it will become more harder to control the balance between the supply and demand. So there will be more idle time and more idle resources. And for this problem, how to use a shared economy to solve this problem to make this more efficient?
Well, I think a lot of things is really market driven. I still believe in market mechanism. You cannot force one way or the other. I think the best that the government should do is provide an environment that people can try to do things. And the market will dictate what survives and what doesn't. For me, I don't know if that's the best answer. Usually when for example, Malaysia has a national car, and for a long time they try and force people to use the national car. And it's not very good for the industry at all. Then other cars company doesn't want to go in there, because nobody can use them because government agencies, government officials must use national car. It's not productive, and you're only stuck with one standard. There's no competition. Competition is healthy.
As I have my knowledge my understanding about the EV service, right? And even they are the non-profit service to use the shared economy, but now it becomes a benefit organization because more and more people see the profit and economic opportunity in this service. So when people just invest the money and they buy more and more cars, so it won't be called idle time and idle resources and get put more and more money.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
are different with
There's a
the
different-
shared economy.
Yeah. At some point, the government will have to step in when once they take over and become a monopoly. If they are becoming like a main national taxi company, then it becomes a threat. Then that's when the government should step in and look at this. But some of this model, like your OF4 bike thing, it's another bizarre model. They have the $2 billion valuation now, and you see this $1 ride a bike every day. And you see this bike are just littering the whole street everywhere. You just ride and throw away, and next guy come ride and punch in. And it's really, I don't know if that's a good or bad idea so far. I don't know how to judge that yet, but it's interesting to see. But again, that's another market driven. If there's a demand for it, there's a supply.
That issue, you have to train the people to use it responsibly with the bicycle. Right? I mean, that's a very unique situation. You can take the bike and then you can throw it anyway after you finish using it. And that doesn't have it in Didi, in Uber. Because you just go in there, they have a driver, you bring it there and place, but there's a unique situation with the bicycle. The shared economy for the bicycle. Long time I thought about an umbrella. We all buy an umbrella and then when it is raining, but then it started hardly to rain. So in my mind, umbrella should be somebody should just invest in umbrella and left umbrella everywhere. When it rains, you just pick any umbrella and you see it, put it somewhere back. Why do we all have to have one umbrella? Because we don't use it. Right? And that is the same concept about the car. I think the speaker talked about, you just park the car there, left it there all day, you never use it. Why don't let somebody else use it during the time when you use it?
That's actually an interesting model of Tesla. The new car, you buy the car and you can actually buy the service. So the car, because of the auto-driving car in the future, electric car, auto-driving, no drivers. The car, you buy the package, the car will deliver you to your office in the morning and you go and pick up other customers and get money and collect money for you and come back to pick you up. So that's the model that they've been presenting to the people. Is you pay for a pool, the car actually pay for the car itself. Because when you're in office, you don't need it, you call it, it'll come back when you need it. But when you don't need it, you just go and circle around, become Uber. They join the pool. So that's an interesting model.
Next question, please.
As I understand, there are three main frameworks for future development in Thailand. We have the Economic and Social Development Plan, we have the 20-year framework, and of course we have Thailand 4.0. Which one of these has the most direct policy implications?
Well, they all function differently. The 5-year, economic plan, that is happening every 5 years. Then there is the government directives, which is the 4.0. This is something that we want to upgrade everything of what we are doing right now. The 20-year plan is a longer-term plan. We need to set the course because in the past we are so politically driven. So one government will come in and say, the last government did was crap, so just scrap it and start a new plan. So we keep having this new plan for the last 3 governments, which is just only a few years. But that's why we need like a solid plan into the constitution. We have this 20-year plan to follow. While the 7-year plan is something that is rolling. So that would dictate the budgetary needs for different function, different institution, different area. But the 4.0 is more of an interim. This is how to upgrade on the economic and on the industry side.
So it's more of a shorter-term vision.
Short, yes, but this is going to take at least easily 5 to 10 years. Under this, we still have EEC. You hear about the Eastern Economic Corridor. That's even an more interesting plan in itself. A lot of people are just confused how you convert these provinces in the east. But to me, you think of it, it's like EEC, the 3 provinces, Chonburi, Chachoengsao, and Rayong, will essentially become a new city. That will be like Tianjin to Beijing, it will be like Yokohama to Tokyo. It's a whole new area that will be fully industrialized with all infrastructure all built out and different zoning for R&D, for universities, for aviation, for automotive. The whole thing has been mapped out. They have even instituted a new agency is called EBC Center. So everything is put in while this government is in office, trying to put everything into writing as an institution so this can be carried forward. Not when we have an election next year and this all being scrapped away. That's what the Japanese is complaining, because before that we have the super cluster policy. It was just 3-4 years ago. And they're all coming in and they want to go into these super clusters, they get these special privileges and tax breaks. And then we have different government and those is not valid anymore. So what do we do now? So we want something that can stay in constitution and we carry through regardless of who is in office.
So these directives are binding regardless of who.
That's the whole idea. But politics is different.
The Chinese have the advantage. The Chinese have the same Communist Party all the time. The Communist Party have the 18th plan or the 19th plan, the 20th plan. They just get roll out. Nobody is changing.
But that's where we need to get more involved. I think the problem with people power, we are so reliant on government. Whatever you say, we follow. We shouldn't be that way. We should be telling them. We should be working with them. This is what we need. This is what you need to do for us to get this going. This is small. In the past, me myself, I didn't get involved too much because I think I don't want to deal with politicians. They're not very nice people. I don't want to be like them. But then you end up having some of the, I wouldn't want to say substandard people in office, telling you what to do. Some of these people in office. You don't even take them in if they apply for a job in my office. But now they're running my country's affair, and I have to abide by it, which is a pity. That's why we need more young people to get involved.
See, this is interesting because I teach a subject on the role of government, and people in the class didn't realize they have a specific position because their job is they're getting somebody to represent them. So who is this person? They have to be very careful to go and select that person and tell him what I want you to help us to do. If not, you get the wrong person. But whereas the government in China, they already have the Communist Party, and the Communist Party will then bring their own people, and their own people up as from young, and then they all contribute towards the Communist Party, and if they have this passion to help their people, in mind, the way I'm looking at, they are actually doing very well, helping the people to lift the poverty level and become more and more successful. And the government is doing well. And so the people just leave the thing to the government, and then you can get on with your capitalist way of doing things. But as it is today, for example, in Thailand, in my country, or most of the democratic country, you have a role to bring in your own representative, whom you think that can do job for you. Not so much the Chinese, because the Chinese have very little influence. But the democratic country have a role to play. You know, the Indians are the biggest democracy in the world. I mean, the Singaporean, the Malaysian, the ASEAN countries, they all have to select their own politician. And the politician, the students in that normally I get in that country, they are now MBA graduates soon in a few months. They know nothing about, and some of them don't even know who is the representative. And how do you ask them to find their own representative which they think they are good enough? They have this role to play, and then tell them who is a good representative in the parliament. Otherwise, you get in trouble. You have a role to play too, selecting of your own representative in the parliament. How many of us are really doing that effectively? Next question, please.
Yes.
So as you mentioned about the importance of service and the emergence of services, right? And also you mentioned about the we need more manpower and also human force. So don't you think it's really a high time for Thailand to import services, or
We are
manpower?
importing a lot of services. We are importing a lot of services.
But I mean, mostly in the hospitality industry, because we need more. More import of services from Singapore or something like that. Do you think it's really
Any
important?
specific service you have in mind that Thailand should import?
Like the human resources or something?
Sorry?
Like the human resources?
Yeah, that comes to simple question is on the labor law. That's the problem. We're still trying to clear that, because we do need a lot of outside talent coming in. Funny enough, Thailand is one of the countries that has negative unemployment rate. You don't realize that, because the numbers is not always straight. But we have 300,000-400,000 people from Cambodia, and another 200,000-300,000 from Myanmar as the low-end laborers. If you take that off, they will go back at some point, because as their countries become affluent and the economy is doing better, they will go back, and we will be short of people doing a lot of jobs that they were doing before. We are already overemploying what we have. A lot of jobs cannot be replaced, and that's why the new technology, the new robotics, those will have to come into play. But your question basically pertains to the labor law, and we are working on it. We're trying to make it more flexible for people to come in and work in time. Under the AEC charter, we have free movement of people, but it hasn't really kicked in because there are still different standards that are not synchronized. For example, to become a Thai art, to practice dentistry, for example, or architecture or engineer in Thailand, you need to pass some Thai laws, some Thai exams. Who's gonna sit in a Thai exam in Singapore? And same thing. Technically, we are supposed to be able to provide our technical service in the region on the 10,000 countries, but things are not moving as quickly as we like.
Okay,
Yes,
I have
please.
one more. What? Okay, during your presentation, you said that even your secretary has an MBA, and there are so many graduates that don't get jobs because we do not have the technical skills. So wouldn't it be in the best interest of a country or someone from a Chamber of Commerce or Federation of Commerce to actually work with universities to design courses so that the gap that you're talking about, the gap between what we know and what we need in business, be shrunk?
Yes, we are doing a lot of that. We have an entire working group on that, but not with universities in particular. We're actually working with the polytechnics and the technical schools. And a lot of those schools are better done by the employers. So the Germans will take in the engineers, or they have such difficulty finding engineers, and the managerial skills. They're taking all these young students with MBA or not MBA or undergrads and retrain the whole thing, the whole crew, and they have batches. The Japanese the same, the Germans the same. So I think we're working more on the polytechnics and the technical schools to bring in students and deliver the right skills that is needed. You know, the entire Eastern Seaboard is short of engineers, and we don't have programmers. Like I mentioned, these are all the sectors that are mismatched, and we have a lot of people with MBAs. We have a lot of people with managerial skills, and yet they couldn't find a job. So there must be some reallocation here. But again, it's also it comes with the value, right? Because everybody wants a degree. But sometimes a degree doesn't get you a job. You might as well just have gone for some, what do you call it, apprenticeship with some industries, some specialist industries. Right? Then you drop out in high school and then you become a programmer because you played game a lot. Maybe that's a different skill. Not encouraging you to drop out. I'm not saying MBA is not good, but you have to then focus, from now on, because just an MBA is a general degree. You need to be more focused. Finance, then what? SME finance, maybe? Technology finance? Marketing, what marketing? The whole industry is changing so much and becomes so narrow and focused. You need to pick a very specific area of expertise.
I always believed it's really not so much the university or the teachers, it's you yourself. What can you do differently? I mean, the valid point is there because we're going to get a lot of, somehow, the trend is that MBA is a very prestigious degree to go and achieve. And then all of a sudden, a lot of MBA graduates. And then what are they going to do? How different are you from another? That is the key. Not so much, they all have a certificate. We saw it from the undergraduate and then now it's moving on towards the master's level now, at the graduate level. So as the economy improves, a lot of parents can send their kids to school and then all have an undergraduate and then they all said, okay, we're not going to get a job, we're going to move on to become a master's degree holder. And then there's going to be a lot moving from undergraduate to master's degree. So how are you different from them? And I think the one who is different, very different, still always command a very good job. Just be different. How different? What can you contribute? I think if you think that your MBA in the school, in ABAC here, can make you different, I think you think, okay, because you are all the same, you can't finish this degree and then how different? So, yeah. It's just you need to be different. In which manner? The person who really can contribute and be different will really make it, still make it, and always will make it, I believe. Next question, please. So now we almost can come to the end. I'd like to suggest that for us to invite Dr. John Barnes here to propose a vote of thanks to the speaker, and at the same time to conclude the session of the speaker of the month. Dr. John Barnes, please.
I think we'd all agree that Khun Kassim has given us a very wide-ranging, deep-thinking, thoughtful presentation today, okay? And I also thank the people from the audience who have asked questions, okay? I think the answers to those questions, broadly speaking, inform you that there is still a lot of work to be done, okay, through the Board of Trade and many other organisations. There was one question from the gentleman in the front there about Thai standards. And there actually is a Thai Industrial Standards Institute, which doesn't cover everything, but it does cover industrial standards. So if you're talking about or interested in industrial standards, that'll be the organisation to go to. Okay. Then there was another person up the back asked, I think the gentleman with the grey shirt, asked about or pointed out the difficulties that students have when they come to Thailand and graduate from an MBA course, and how do they go about getting a job. I'll just share one example from two of our tourism students from China who were shopping with some Thai friends in Paragon about 2 years ago. And when they'd finished their shopping, only the 2 Chinese students thought, we're here in Paragon. I wonder what the opportunities are for work here. So they asked some questions and were directed up to the 4th floor of Paragon department store, where they met the lady in charge of the Paragon marketing department, strategic marketing department, who had graduated from the UK in tourism actually. Now she said to these 2 students, you've come just at the right time, because we need 2 people from China that can help us market our department store to Chinese in China before they come here. And when they come here, when these Chinese customers come here, we need people to guide them through the department store. And we'll give you an unpaid internship for 6 months. And those 2 students took it straight away. Now, after 6 months, the same strategic marketing manager said to them, great, you've done a fantastic job. Now we need you 2 people, if you're willing, to take on a paid job of developing a Chinese language website for Paragon, which they did. So they got a job, they got a work permit. After about 6 months, they had to go back to China because they were both married ladies with families, and their husbands who were working here were getting posted back to China. But the reason that and then several months after that, Central Department Store finally followed Paragon and developed a Chinese language web page. Okay, so the reason I'm sharing this with you is you need to sometimes offer your services free of charge as an internship. Now I know this won't go down very well with many of you, but you've got to put your foot forward. You've got to take the initiative in anything in life. You've got to take the initiative. And when you do really well, then people will offer you something more. They'll offer you a paid job. Another Chinese student finished her thesis and she wanted to do an internship here before she went back to China. She went along and became a trainee at the Sheraton Grand Hotel in Sukhumvit. Okay, an unpaid internship. Now this lady was a really bubbly, lovely young lady, got on well with everybody, very communicative. Her English was very good as well. And that organisation said to her, if you work for us here as an intern, then we'll get you a paid job in Thailand with a work permit. And then after 2 years, we'll give you a paid job with our sister hotel in China. Now she didn't stay with them 2 years, she stayed 1 year. And then she left them and she got a paid job with a completely different hotel organisation in Krabi, because she didn't just want to work in a hotel in the city, she wanted to try a beach hotel and spa and this type of thing. So this is what I'm getting at here, that you need to take the initiative, you need to think out of the box a bit. Don't take no for an answer. Think about how you can actually circumvent those difficulties. Even when I first came to Thailand 48 years ago, I'd been here on a project and I really loved Thailand. But when we finished the project, people said to me, no, there's no opportunity. So I went back and finished my project work. In those days I was an engineer. Went back and finished my project with a company in Australia, and then I left the company because they couldn't give me a job back here, and I went to work for a completely different type of industry. I went to work in mainframe computers. And the deal I had with them was that if I worked with them for 2 years, they'd give me a job and send me back to Thailand. But I was only 23, 24, right? And I was impatient. So I said no. After a year, I left them. I bought a ticket. And on the last day I worked with that company, I received a telephone call from my old company that wouldn't give me a job here and said, we heard you've got an air ticket and you're going to live in Thailand. Have you got a job? And I said, no. And they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to get to Thailand and I'm going to start knocking on doors and I'm going to get a job. So this was on a Friday. They said, call us on the Monday. I rang them on the Monday and they said, come and see us, we've got you a job in Thailand. This is what you've got to do sometimes. You've got to take charge if you like. You've got to believe in yourself. Okay? Do that. Have confidence in yourself. I don't mean overconfidence, but know your ability. And don't take no for an answer. Find a way through the difficulties. Okay? If you do that, nothing can stop you. These are the same sort of skills you need as an entrepreneur. Now, I remember years ago I used to teach at Mahidol University to the undergraduates, and I taught several courses out there, and one of them was international marketing. And the textbook I used was written by Cadior and Graham, and there was a very interesting chart in that textbook, which showed Thailand as being on the top of the list of entrepreneurs, the list of entrepreneurial people in the country per 1,000 head population. So Thailand has got a long history of being entrepreneurial. Okay? And if you're Thai, it's there for you. If you're from a neighbouring country or another country, you can learn from it. Okay? Don't take no for an answer. Have confidence in your ability. Keep honing your ability. Keep finding a way around difficulties. Okay? I've spoken too much. This is supposed to be a thank you speech. As I said, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Can we now, boss, come forward, and then the school wants to have a record of your presence.